In this video, we're going over a new report regarding PlayStation Plus Premium. Apparently, Sony is now in the process of contacting all developers who are currently making games for PlayStation and letting them know that there is a new requirement. That requirement is they are going to have to make a game trial if they are charging more than $34 for their game on the PlayStation Store. And this game trial will be available to PlayStation Plus Premium subscribers. So I want to go over this with you guys. Before we get into it, be sure to hit the like button to help the video out. And if you are new here, hit the subscribe button as well. So this is reading from GameDeveloper.com. Sony has begun communicating with developers about its plans for timed game trials for PlayStation Plus Premium subscribers. According to sources speaking to Game Developer, developers working on games that cost $34 or higher are now required to create time-limited game trials of their games. These trial versions must be at least 2 hours long. Games that cost lower than those amounts are not required to create limited time trials, according to the new policy. The plan follows Sony's announcement for expanded subscription options for PlayStation Plus. Many developers were informed about the new policy via an update to Sony's developer portal. Our sources indicated that they had not received any other communication about this change. The good news is these requirements are not retroactive and do not apply to upcoming PlayStation VR titles. The less great news is that if you're a developer planning to release on the PlayStation Store in the future, you now need to budget time and resources to create these new timed trials. There is some flexibility as part of Sony's policy. Developers have up until 3 months after their game's launch on the PlayStation Store to release their timed trial. Trials are also only required to be available to PlayStation Plus Premium users for at least 12 months. Sony is also open to releasing custom game demos instead of time-limited game trials, but these will only be approved on a case-by-case basis. Developers are also still free to publish free weekends, game trials, or custom demos that can be accessed by all PlayStation owners. This new policy seems to be a mixed bag for all developers planning to release on PlayStation. On the one hand, larger publishers like Activision Blizzard, 2K Games, or Sony's in-house studios will likely have the resources needed to create these time-limited game trials and stand to benefit from PlayStation Plus Premium subscriptions. On the other hand, if your game is hovering just over the $34 price point, you're probably working with fewer resources than your competitors, and 2 hours may be a significant chunk of your game's content. Savvy developers can maximize those trials into opportunities to acquire new players, but with no promise of payout at the end, it could risk being a lot of work for limited payoff. A scan of the PlayStation Store shows that very few games are strictly sitting at the $34 mark, so the group of developers most impacted by the policy are those releasing games at the $40 tier. A number of single-player games from mid-sized developers dominate that list, including Spider Studios' Greedfall, Asobo's A Plague Tale: Innocence, and Ember Labs' Kena: Bridge of Spirits. Game demos have had a bit of a resurgence in the last few years, from prologues released on Steam to limited-time demos offered during events like Summer Game Festival or Valve's seasonal Steam Game Festivals. It is interesting to see Sony revive them as a tier for relatively high-rolling subscribers, and Game Developer did reach out to Sony to get some type of confirmation of this, but they have yet to respond to them. And so yeah, this is what we're hearing when it comes to what Sony is planning to do when it comes to game trials on PlayStation Plus Premium, and I have to say that it's pretty surprising to me because this is not at all what I was expecting, and I actually think it sounds pretty good. This sounds like a really good value to me. I know that there are people who think that, well, what are you talking about? You're going to pay for game demos? I think people need to understand that there is a difference between a traditional game demo and what game trials is clearly going to be. Game trials are just that. They're trials. You download a fully complete, already released video game, and you get to try out the first 2 hours or more, depending on how long a developer wants to make it, to whereas a demo is usually catered. It's a very finely tuned vertical slice that requires some extra development time and just more goes into it. They're two different things, and so I don't really view it as you're paying for demos. I thought that game trials were just going to be for PlayStation exclusives, so to find out that it's actually going to be for every single video game on the PlayStation Store that's priced $34 or higher, That is kind of insane to me. And as somebody who plays a lot of video games, as somebody who is always skeptical as to whether or not this game is going to be worth buying, because I have been burned like that before. I think everybody has, where I've paid $40, $50, or $60 for a game that I thought looked cool, and I watched gameplay on YouTube, and I was convinced that I'm going to like this game. Then I end up buying it, and within a couple of hours, I'm like, okay, this is really not what I thought it was going to be. Sometimes it's quicker than that. It's not a couple of hours. It's within the first 30 to 45 minutes. I'm like, oh, I think I made a mistake here. And there's really nothing you can do because, Sony, as well as a lot of other game platforms, they have, tough refund policies. Steam is pretty good with that. Some people are saying that this is kind of like Steam, except Steam, the way it works there is you have to buy a game, and then if you don't like it and you played it for less than 2 hours, you have to request a refund. Steam will give you that refund, and that's really great. That's obviously really useful, but I do think they're very different. I think what Sony's trying to go for here is a little bit more streamlined, and I think the big concern that PlayStation fans have is when it comes to the trials being 2 hours. When is the timer going to start? Sony did a test run with Death Stranding and Sackboy Big Adventure where people were pretty perplexed when they saw that if you download the game, which you have to download the game, when you hit the button to download the game, it already starts the timer. So your 5 hours is already counting down. Hopefully that's not the way they handle it, because that would be pretty ridiculous. That would not be smart at all. I would assume that when you download the game, that's not counting towards your 2 hour trial. But yeah, it's worth noting here that developers don't have to create a game trial for PlayStation Plus Premium until up to 3 months after their game is out. And I think that is important to highlight, because this is something that some people are thinking maybe this is going to be potentially bad for developers. Maybe developers won't like this, and maybe to some developers it could be considered annoying, although it really seems like it's very minimal work for them. It's just a little extra something they got to make sure they do, like just check off the box, like, okay, we have our little 2 hour trial, we submitted it, so on and so forth. I think that this could be beneficial for developers, actually, because if a dev releases a game, they don't necessarily have to worry about the PlayStation Plus Premium trial. They have 3 months after their game comes out to, submit their trial. So by the time they get to month 2 or 3 of their game being out, chances are it's already reached its max sales potential. And I think that offering a 2 hour game trial, even if it's just for PlayStation Plus Premium, could actually, help the game, and it maybe could lead to more sales. You have to imagine the people who would be playing your game at that point through a game trial are people who were interested, but just not interested enough to pay full price. And maybe after trying it, they're like, actually, this game's pretty great. Now I'm going to buy it. I feel confident in doing so. I think that's, one way you can look at it. But, yeah, nonetheless, this is a very interesting report that we're getting. And again, to me, this is something that I wasn't expecting. I will tell you, and this is the final thing I'll say in this video, I wasn't planning on upgrading to the PlayStation Plus Premium tier. I do think that Sony is offering a decent amount, but what they're offering in the Premium tier just isn't enough to push me over the edge. It's just not something I'm really that interested in, but this kind of changes everything for me, because I don't know, paying, $120 a year, again, to not only get access to the entire catalog of PlayStation Plus Extra and the classic games, that's like 700 plus games, and being able to browse the entire PlayStation Store and just try out thousands of game demos at will, that sounds pretty good. It does. It sounds like something that really would be beneficial for me personally. And so at this point, I'm going to ask you guys to leave your thoughts down in the comments below. What do you think about this report when it comes to PlayStation Plus Premium game trials? Is it something that sounds like it's valuable to you, something you would be interested in subscribing to PlayStation Plus Premium for? Or are you not really interested in it? Do you think that it's just like, whatever, it doesn't really change your opinion on it? I'll be interested to see what you have to say. That does it for the video, though. Leave it a like if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Hit the bell notification icon, and feel free to share this video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.